All right, here we go. Let's get started with the homework for 5-4, page 402, 10 through 100 every fifth, and problem 106. All right, so the first one asks us to do an A and a B. Cosine of 120 plus 45. We're going to have to look at our formulas. And if we look at our formulas at the right spot, cosine of A plus B turns into cosine A, cosine B, or U and V if you're looking at the formulas, minus sine U, sine V. So 45 is our V, 120 is our U. We're plugging it into our formulas. Then we need to go in and figure out what these values are. Cosine of 120, the unit circle 120 is up here. That is a 60-degree angle in quadrant 2. You can go to your cheat sheet or you can go to your unit circle to figure out the cosine there, but it's going to be 1/2, and since it's in quadrant 2, cosine is negative over here, so negative 1/2. The cosine of 45 is root 2 over 2 minus the sine of 120. The sine of 60 degrees is root 3 over 2, and since it's in quadrant 2, the sine would be positive since we're up above the x-axis. And the sine of 45 is root 2 over 2. Let's clean this up. We've got negative root 2 minus root 6. There is a common denominator all over 4 on that one. If we look over here at B, there is no formula here. They're just saying let's compare what happens if we don't have parentheses and we just do normal cosine of 120, which we already figured out is negative 1/2. Plus cosine of 45, which we've already looked at, and that's root 2 over 2. So this is going to be negative 1 plus root 2 all over 2. And so you can see now that cos A plus cos B, which is our answer here, is much different than cos A plus B, which is our answer here. Okay, you'll get different values depending on what we do. All right, we'll jump ahead to 20. 255 equals 300 minus 45. We want to do the sine, cosine, and tangent of all three of these. So we'll start using this. So we're going to be using our minus formulas. 300 is our U, 45 is our V. So sine of 300 minus 45 is going to be, I'm just plugging in from the formulas here, sine 300 cos 45 minus cos 300 sine 45. All right, the 45s we know how to do. That's root 2 over root 2. 300, if we think about the unit circle, is down here. And it gives you a reference angle of 60 in quadrant 4. In quadrant 4, sine is negative and cosine is positive. All right, so the sine of 60 is root 3 over 2, and it's a negative sign in quadrant 4. And then the cosine of 300 is the cosine of 60, which is 1/2. And we said here that cosine is positive there. So we'll clean this up. We've got negative root 6 minus root 2 over 4. Pause that if you need to get it down. I'm going to erase it so we can do the cosine. All right, so the cosine of the same thing, of 300 minus 45 degrees, is cos 300 cos 45. And looking at our formula, it is a plus sine 300 sine 45. All right, so we already have these values. We just need to put them into the right spots. 1/2 root 2 over 2 plus negative root 3 over 2 root 2 over 2. Final answer, root 2 minus root 6 over 4. go ahead and erase this and do tangent. Alright, so the tangent formula says tan 300 minus tan 45 over 1 plus tan 300 times tan 45. Alright, the tangent of 45 is 1. That one we can fill in, but what about the tangent of 300? Alright, we've already decided it's 60 is our reference angle, so if we go to our chart, we see that the tangent of 60 is equal to root 3. And since we're in quadrant 4, where sine is negative and cosine is positive, if we divide those two things, we'll get a negative root 3. So that's what we need to plug in here. Negative root 3 minus 1, and then negative root 3 down here. So let's clean this up. Negative root 3 minus 1 over 1 minus root 3. Can't leave a radical in the denominator, so we'll multiply here. Top and bottom by 1. Use your conjugates. 1 plus root 3 over 1 plus root 3. And what do we end up with here? First, we'll FOIL negative root 3 outside. Negative times positive is minus 3. Inside would be minus 1. And last would be minus root 3. And this was going to be 1 minus 3. So let's clean this up again. Negative root 3 minus root 3 is negative 2 root 3. Negative 3 minus 1 is minus 4. And in the denominator we have minus 2. So we'll end up with root 3 plus 2 is our final answer. Let's jump ahead to 30. Cosine pi over 7 cosine pi over 5 minus sine pi over 7 pi over 5. We need to find the formula that works for this. So if you think about this as cos u cos v minus sine u sine v, which formula matches up with that? And the proper formula is cos u plus v. So this is cos of pi over 7 plus pi over 5, which we can add that. Let's get a common denominator here. Cos of 5 pi over 35 plus 7 pi over 35. Final answer, cosine 12 pi over 35. And that's the final answer because 12 and 35 cannot be reduced any further. Problem 40, cosine u cosine v plus sine u sine v. Which formula is that? That's cos u minus v. So we'll plug in our numbers. Cos of 120 minus 30. Cos of 90. If we look on our unit circle, the x value at 90, because remember cosine is the x, is 0. And that's your correct answer. Move on to 50. Alright, so we want to do the cotangent of u plus v. So I'm going to write out the formula first. We don't actually have a formula for cotangent. We have a formula for tangent of u plus v. But remember, cotangent is going to be 1 over that. So whatever the formula is for tangent, we're going to flip that over also. So the formula for tangent flipped over is 1 minus tan u tan v over tan u plus tan v. So what is tan u and tan v? Well, to get this, they give us some information about the u and v triangles, so we're going to go over here and draw them. This will be triangle u, and this will be triangle v. Two separate triangles. So from theta in u, they tell us sine, so opposite over hypotenuse. Since we're in quadrant 2, we know that the x values are going to be negative. I get 12 from the Pythagorean theorem. All right, so again on this one, negative 3 over 5. Pythagorean theorem, we're going to have 4. And so if we look at u, what is the tangent of u? It's going to be negative 5/12. And what is the tangent of v? It's going to be negative 4/3. So now we're just going to plug them in. 1 minus negative 5/12, negative 4/3 over negative 5/12 plus negative 4/3. We'll clean up the numerator here. 5 times 4, doing the second part first, is 20 over 12 times 3 is 36. 1, let's turn that into 36 over 36, so we have a common denominator. And then we need a common denominator here. Let's make this 12. Had to multiply by 4, so we'll make that 16. So negative 5 plus negative 16 is negative 21 over 12. Clean up the numerator. We've got 16/36. Instead of dividing a fraction, we can times by the reciprocal. 12 over negative 21. That'll cancel to 1 and 3. So we'll have negative 16 over 3 times 21 is 63, which will be your final answer. Let me stop the video here. And split it in two.